live. Be
Yeah.
careful what you say now. People
Oh
listening.
no, we good. We good. We good. I had it in the other one. Again, man, I'm not slick at any of this stuff. Mike mostly does this stuff. He's the DJ. I'm the rapper. That's it. I've never been good at this, man. Ever.
All right.
So,
Well, tell them what's up.
well, I'm here. This is my first broadcast, as it would be with my homeboy and down in San Paulo. I think it is Brazil.
Sao Paulo, Brazil.
San Paulo, Brazil. Cryptocurrency specialist, the czar of foreign investment, Mr. Brazilian Jiu Jitsu extraordinaire,
I'm a blue
Mr.
belt. Check
Will
it out now. I'm a blue belt.
Blue Belt, Mr. Will correct the nigga with locks, uh, my man Yusef Wateef. We had been corresponding regularly. I've been on his channel a couple of times. Please go over there and check that out because he's giving out some life changing information. And one of the things that I wanted to uh, discuss with you was how for those of us that are dummies, I wanted you to do today's. I have this title up here about discussion of love and sex because that was an add-on from your last podcast. This is my first one, so all of you out there, please bear with me because I'm still learning this YouTube stuff. But anyway, Watch showed me how to do this, and I brought him here today, and we're just doing this podcast, and we're just gonna chop it up about a lot of things. And again, I saw you on O'Shea Duke Jackson's show.
Yeah, yeah. I was with O'Shea Duke Jackson.
You were talking about cryptocurrencies and investments. Uh, Break that down a little bit for us dummies that just have a basic checking account, please. What is cryptocurrency? How can you become financially independent with it? What are ways that you can use to protect your assets using cryptocurrencies? And we'll get into the other stuff about love and sex, but because you got to give these black folks some niggatry. You always got to give them some niggatry.
I don't even use that word. You. In
Okay,
any case,
I'm
let's do this.
hey,
Let's do this.
you got to give them a little bit of ratchet shit. Okay,
Well,
let's do it. You got to give them some ratchet shit. But let's
you
talk
gotta
about
give
the
them.
cryptocurrency piece.
Okay. Well, cryptocurrency. The first thing I will tell everybody is I love cryptocurrency. I've been involved in it for 8 years now. The first thing I'm gonna tell everybody is do not run out and put your money into any cryptocurrency. And we're gonna use the word Bitcoin interchangeably with cryptocurrency right now. Do not run out and put your money into anything you do not understand. Where most people fall short is that they do not want to take the time to learn about it, yet they'll suffer the consequences of financial illiteracy their entire life.
Okay.
I wrote an article about it and I'll share it with you guys. It was called Bitcoin's Bloody Battles. What I did is I decided to learn what cryptocurrency was. Cryptocurrency is digital currency. Think of it as just like the Japanese have yen, just like the Brazilians have real, just like the Americans have dollars. The difference with cryptocurrency is it's not attached to a country and it's not regulated by any country. A lot of people believe that cryptocurrency can be regulated. It can't. As a matter of fact, I first heard about cryptocurrency when I was living in Shanghai, China, figuring out what is this thing that China keeps trying to regulate, but they can't. And if the second most despotic government in the world, second only to North Korea, can't regulate it, I want to find out more about it. So I enrolled in a class with a man named Andreas Antonopoulos. Andreas Antonopoulos is the world's foremost expert on cryptocurrency. And one of the things I did is he took the course for half of it. Another professor took the course for half of it. And what I did is studied for 12 weeks. I didn't just learn how to put money in and out of a cryptocurrency account. I learned what it is, how it works, where you can look at it, ups and downs. The thing about cryptocurrency, it's a game called perfect information, and no government wants you to have. Uh, Brother Maceo, if you sent me $1 over the bank and I said, hey, I didn't get that dollar you owed me for coffee last week, you can say, well, something might have happened to it. You might be telling me the truth. You might not be. With cryptocurrency, we can both just log on, look anywhere on the internet, and it says that a transaction actually did go through. No government wants you to have that level of accountability. No government wants you to be able to set up as many or as few accounts as you want to save your money in as many different places as you want, from your telephone to your computer, without them being able to at will take money out, look at it, or do anything they want with it. Now, how does this work? It's decentralized. People say, well, where is cryptocurrency located? It's located on the internet, which means that they have put it in a situation where all the computers everywhere in the world verify each other's information.
Mm, okay.
Okay, and I'm giving you the short version. As a matter of fact, hold on. Let me
Let,
give
let,
you
let me
guys
ask this question. So let me make sure I understand what you're saying.
right.
Cryptocurrency is in essence digital currency.
Yes,
Is that correct?
yes.
It is digital currency. Now I hear a lot of people saying, now we need to come back to the ramifications of that, but I hear a lot of people saying that it's unregulated, it's not safe, but it's just like any investment. You can make some money from it and you can lose some money from it.
Yes.
So, what is the stigma surrounding the fear of cryptocurrency? And by the way, shout out to Naima Buckner and Anti Gravity. This is my first podcast, so welcome. Uh, Rainy
What I would
Woman,
say is
hello.
that
This is my first podcast, so y'all bear with me. Go ahead, go ahead. Why?
your friends are more right than they know. First and foremost, you're right, it is unregulated. But when have the federal regulations surrounding money helped working class people? Explain to me how
Never.
they can say, well, look how good the government has been doing for us so far.
Mm,
Second, well, they say, well, what was it? You could lose money in it. Of course you can. I can lose money investing in bonds, which, by the way, I believe in diversifying my income. I put money in the bond market. I put money in cryptocurrency market, but I learned what those markets are. Now, I admit I have an advantage. For 9 years, I worked as a financial professional in the United States of America before I retired to my current career, which some of you may know me as a. As a matter of fact, I ghostwrite websites for some people you all know. But I'm a writer, editor. You could write your own website entry. Send it to me. People pay me to edit it to university level English. People send me contracts in one language they need done in English and done in correct English for another one. I have a company that I can run from a laptop anywhere in the world. But going back to the cryptocurrency thing, working for 9 years in the financial business hardened my heart in a way that I can't express to you because when you really start to understand how money works and you understand it's a dirty business, it's a dirty business.
wow.
And those of us who succeed, I'm going to go so far as to say everyone you see that achieved financial security did not necessarily break the law, but there is no way to do it ethically.
Mm, wow.
Capitalism creates a system where there are extreme winners and extreme losers. That's it. There is no middle ground. If you want to
Agreed.
get out of the game, you're going to have to understand that in order for me to be sitting in, where am I now? So I've lived in 15 different countries across 5 continents. I'm sitting in Sao Paulo, Brazil, drinking tea from China. For me to have this privilege, I had to be okay. I had to be okay with people who are never going to have anything more than maybe a few pennies to rub together and hope they can make a meal today. That's capitalism for you. And I
It
advocate
is.
capitalism
It
because the
is.
game worked for me.
Exactly.
I'm trying to
Well,
give you the game.
well, please. Okay. I'm here to learn it. There was a podcast I did on Nicole Michelle's show. I did with her. But go by the way, go over there and support that. Support the inner beauty movement. Where we were talking about the Nicole Murphy, Layla Roshan case, and we were talking about how do you protect your assets. And at that time, you indicated to me that there was a way to protect your assets through cryptocurrency. So how can men protect their assets through cryptocurrency from the unsavory and nefarious laws and divorce courts? How does that work?
What I will tell you isn't just true for men, it's true for everybody. But what I would say with cryptocurrency, if we work backwards, the first thing I will tell everybody is this because one of my side businesses is people pay me to set up cryptocurrency accounts for them that are completely anonymous so that they can just pay their taxes on what they have, but not necessarily give up where the money is. And I will tell people the number one enemy of your financial security is you running your own mouth.
Mm,
This is true whether you
that's
have
strikingly
gold.
similar to criminal law. Yeah.
well, here's how it goes, right? most people will put some money away into, let's say they bought some gold and they're like, man, I just invested in this gold. Why are you telling people? Aren't you investing in gold for later if something bad happens? Why are you running your mouth? People running around saying, I got this secret cryptocurrency account. Why are
Yeah.
you why are you telling everybody if it's a secret? Isn't that kind of contradictory? So now when the federal tax man comes in and says, and for the record, I have friends and clients that work for the IRS, and one of the first things they said is, we are no smarter than any average man. The stunning and overwhelming majority of things that we get, people call us and say, hey, I know somebody that's cheating. Now, to be fair, what most people don't know is that when you call them, they investigate you too. Because she said, what did she tell me? She said, a majority of people are cheating when somebody calls in on them, but almost 100% of the people who do the snitching are cheating on something too. That's that's the thing.
Absolutely. Boy, that sounds familiar because I can't count the number of times that I've, went to go get a guy out of jail, and he'll say, they have no evidence. They have no evidence. They got nothing against me. And I'll go and sit in on their court appearances. And I mean, he done literally cut an album. He done cut an album. He done sat there and wrote a statement. He sat there and made all types of incriminating admissions. He done sit there and put the shit on social media, on Facebook, and then got the nerve to be talking about who snitched.
So with cryptocurrency, I would say this is what you need to do. The way it can protect you is it allows you to put your money in a place where the only person who knows it's there, or even knows how to get into it, or even knows how many accounts you have, is you. There is no way to cheat the game. The game cannot be cheated. I don't care if the game is how do I learn how to lift some heavy ass weights without going to the gym every other day and coming home sore for a shower. The game could be how can I fuck the women I want to fuck, where you got to learn how to go out there and talk to women. The game might be, listen, how can I have some money later instead of now? You can't cheat the game. You got to put it away and you got to learn the game you're playing. Everybody calls me Wateef. Listen, I've been listening to these podcasts and I've been, reading these articles online. I want you to take this money from me. I want you to put it in some cryptocurrency. And I say, no, I'm not going to do that. Here's what I will do. Because you're my friend, I'll sit down with you online, or we can sit down. You can buy me a hamburger, and I'm going to break down exactly what you need to learn, show you some things you need to read. And over the next month or two, because it might take a while, you're going to learn what you're doing with your money, and then you can put it in there. People get mad. People get genuinely offended
Wow, why?
because they think I can just do magic for them. They think that if they just put their money someplace, it'll magically do well for them and they don't have to do any hard work. They don't have to learn where the money is. I said, do you understand how many people that used to have money are broke right now because they came to somebody with that same deal? That person said, listen, why don't I just put this away for you? You don't have to know you don't have to know how the accounting system works. You don't have to know anything. The scary part about cryptocurrency, and I want to reiterate this, it's not hard. If you graduated high school, um, you can manage this. You can learn this. It's a matter of, do you want to? Do you want to spend a night at home? Gary V, who I find one of the most influential people online or any place else, because when he brings people to hustle, he doesn't bring the people a rich man's hustle. He shows them how he got there and some of the small things you can do to get where he is. But he has a book out that I want to read, and he basically says he has these hours where he says crush it. He's giving people advice over a large scale that I gave people all the time. When you said, well, Wateef, how did you get out of the game at 37 and semi-retire? Easy. I worked my ass off all day, and then secretly at night, I learned a different set of skills. I learned MOOC classes. I learned how to be an editor. I learned how to be a copywriter. I learned how to be a proofreader. And I secretly would farm out my services and whore myself out for pennies at the dollar until I got enough experience. So by the time I left the United States and people were like, what are you going to do? And I was like, I just don't know. I'll figure something out and let you know how it works. But I already
Wow.
had that skill. So what I can say to you is, if you graduated high school, you can learn cryptocurrency. I can give you some information on it. Um, it's not fun, but it's not difficult. It's not like rocket science. I have a friend whose dad is a rocket scientist. He says the reason they say hard as rocket science is because rocket science is fucking hard. He's like, the rest of it's not. But
So,
that's the thing.
so let me ask you this question. Does cryptocurrency work off of social security numbers? You say it can be completely anonymous and untraceable. Does it work off social security numbers?
No.
Like, let's say generally, like if when you get a divorce, I mean, they go through your finances with a fine tooth comb. They trace every avenue possible to find out where your money is. And that's usually tied to a social security number, some way to trace that. So you're saying using cryptocurrency, it doesn't use that same social security number based system. Am I
No,
hearing you correctly?
you are correct. You are correct, sir.
So if you well, I'm sorry, Rainy Woman, this wasn't clickbaited. This is my first one, but we're gonna get to the love and sex in a minute. But
Hey, listen.
I
Whoever
think
said that, who said that? Who said that?
Rainy Woman said you clickbaited me with love and sex. It was the first because that's what we were talking about on his stream. So I just used it here. But back to my question. With the cryptocurrency, you can hide it or you can put this money away. Well, let me say it that way. You can invest this money without a social security number based system. Is that correct?
Yeah, yeah. That's exactly what I'm saying.
Okay. Okay. So that in that way, it's untraceable.
If you do, and then this is what I do as one of my side businesses. If it's done correctly, starting from the back end to the front end, if you don't tell anybody, it's not there.
Okay. Well, let's get into, I guess, what these people came here to see. You're in Sao Paulo, Brazil, right?
Sao Paulo, Brazil.
Sao Paulo, Brazil. Now, there's been quite a lot of talk from a lot of Negroes on YouTube, especially in the black manosphere. You know, the first thing out their mouth is, I'm going to Brazil. I'm going to Brazil. I've had it with these women down here. I'm going to Brazil looking for the ideal woman. I'm going to Brazil looking for feminine women. Can you give, you're in Brazil. I've been to
I'm in Sao
Brazil.
Paulo, Brazil.
I've been to Brazil as a, in the military, member of the United States Navy. So here's my question. When they go down there to Brazil, are they just going to find this paradise of women that are just waiting to fuck them? Is that what they're going to find?
Well, I'm not trying to answer a question with a question, but the question would be if where you lived before, I don't care if it's the United States or London, England, or wherever you were before, if you could get off the bus or get out the car where you lived and put yourself in a situation where women were just running all over to fuck you, yeah, you can do that in Brazil just fine. However, if you were some chump where you were and you didn't have a social IQ and you didn't do any of the main things I talk about that make women attracted to you, and what are those things? I go over them in an article I even wrote. It was called, I think it was called, she asked me when I was settled down, but the things women find attractive: physical security, you're strong and big. Maybe you have a great social reputation, everybody knows who you are. Maybe you're extraordinarily smart. Remember, every chess grandmaster has groupies. Think about that for a second. Okay,
Yes.
maybe
Yes.
you're rich, or then there's the trump card, the one that beats everything is fame. If you have any of those things under control, yes, you can come to Brazil, get off the plane, and they're just gonna be just slinging pussy at you. It's gonna be ridiculous.
But you're not just going to be some average dusty Joe off the block.
Nah, that's not gonna happen.
Well, look, I want to go to Brazil because these women down here, I've had it with these American women. So I'm going to run down here to Brazil, where the women are really feminine and submissive. And I'm just going to go down here and just be swimming in pussy because, I'm in Brazil. And these are Negroes that won't even super chat. These are Negroes that won't even give $1 PayPal donation, but they're going to spend $1,000 going to Brazil,
Now
you know.
here's where it gets weird. Here's where it gets real weird. I can tell you that just like the United States of America, there are people, there are women, because in this case we're talking about women, um, who look for those guys who don't know that they just got off in a place where. Let me give you an example. I tell people this all the time. Nobody believes me, and I'm glad. I just turned 42 years old, right? I'm constantly in the gym. Am I the strongest man in the gym? No, I'm not. But what I can also say to you is that I'm not by any stretch the youngest man in the gym. There's men in there with all white hair that make me look I'm just standing still. Why is that important? If you come to Brazil, you have to be ready to understand competition is real. This is a country where men get up, get out, and get after those women. You see some cute girl in high heels who has these great legs because she's been walking uphill every day both ways to school since she was 19, and now she's 20. Every day she's dealing with men who know they have their shit together, just spitting game at her, bang, 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 bang. And you get off the airplane. If you don't want that kind of competition, good luck. Good luck. You're gonna turn into one of those frustrated, angry men.
In Brazil?
in Brazil.
No, no.
Yeah,
Brazil is supposed to be a refuge for the
yeah.
socially awkward male. It's supposed to be a place where you can get laid there if you can't get laid anywhere else.
Well, here's the thing. The other part of it is this now, and I want to be clear. There are a lot of groups out there, and as a writer, as a writer, I'm often approached by different publications to write about Brazil, and I do. And a lot of times they pay me to keep my name off it and put theirs on. That's fine. But I'm constantly being approached by uh, these men's organizations that want me to write articles that say, "Come to Brazil, get off the airplane. We've got a bunch of cute girls for you. No effort required." And what I always put out there, and this is something O'Shea and I got into it over, in a respectful way, of course. And a lot of people get mad, but fuck them if they want to come and talk to me about it. What a lot of men don't know is that there are organizations that make a shit ton of money off selling you this dream. And when you get off the airplane, there are these barbecues and all these girls out there. But what you don't know is they're all just paid prostitutes. And my theory on prostitution is this: if you want to buy a prostitute, I would rather you get off the plane in Brazil, say, "Hey, Watt, I got this business meeting in the morning. Can you put me in contact with some of your friends that can take me to a decent brothel?" I know some. Sure, here you go. I got no problem with that. But what I hate seeing is these men get off the airplane, meet these guys in these organizations, and they're like, "Yeah, we're gonna go to this beach, and not you paid your membership fees, and blah 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 blah." And I had sex with all these great women. You could have paid 10% if you just went and got an average prostitute. But their egos won't allow that. And I'll tell you why I don't deal with
Oh,
prostitutes. I'm gonna tell
oh,
you.
you said ego.
I'm gonna tell you why I don't deal with prostitution. Right? It's not an ethical issue. I have no problem with women who decided this is the skill that I want to put out to the world because no woman woke up in the morning saying I want to be a prostitute. That's a decision that a woman that does not have another way to earn has. My
Right.
thing, from what I've seen, and if you want to give me some pushback on this, brother Tony, I'm okay. I found that men who deal with prostitutes lose their ability. Their teeth lose their sharpness. Their sword gets dull because if you're in a situation where this woman is paid to laugh at all your jokes, when you do meet a woman, you don't know what jokes are really funny to tell her. You don't know what clever things you said really made her go, "Huh, that was interesting," or if she was saying that because she was paid. And I have young men that come to me for advice. They get mad when I say, "Listen, Tinder is like candy. Every now and then, sure, but I want you to stay off that." Why? I don't need to learn game the way you did, Wateef. We're not old men. We don't need to learn how to sit down and have a cup of coffee with a woman. Because I tell them, they say, "Well, listen, where should I take this girl?" This is a common one. Watt. "I'm going to go talk to this girl I met. Where should I take her?" I say, "Listen, you need to take her to a small mom and pop restaurant. You need to make it a place where you don't spend any more than it costs for 2 cups of coffee and you split." And I say, "Share a cookie with her." And they say, "What? On a first date?" I said, "Yes, because your life should be of such importance and so stunningly magnificent that you can sit down with that 1 cup of coffee and a half a cookie and have her enraptured." But if you've got to resort, like I lived in Vegas for many years, if you got to resort to a $5,000 bottle of wine, to a club with a $2,000 entry fee, well, well, she can get that from a lot of other guys. What makes you special? What has she
Okay.
done to earn more? Where do you move from there? That's another one. Where do you go from there?
Well, here was my position, and we did a podcast recently that is in my Patreon, where my brother and myself we were having this discussion, and we were talking about the parlor trick. We were discussing another YouTube's parlor tricks of using business cards, which I thought was extremely corny because people that are really important don't need business cards because everyone already knows who they are. So my question was this, my issue was this, was that you have some dudes that they are at such a deficit. There's such a deficit when it comes to even relating or talking to women. It's not that they haven't had the opportunity to get out there and have those conversations. It's not that they haven't experienced rejection. They've experienced rejection to an extreme degree, and they haven't had any win whatsoever. They haven't had any win whatsoever. And you talked about yourself, the education that you overtook, that you took up in order to get to where you need to be, to where you can retire at 37. You
Okay.
have a lot of dudes that sacrificed significant chunks of their dating time to get to where you are now.
Okay.
So they don't understand the social cues. They don't understand the informal language. They don't understand the art of conversation, or they understand the art of conversation, but they can converse about things that are passionate to them. But it's not necessarily important to the woman that they're talking to. So O'Shea Duke, Duke Jackson did something which was a takeoff of our podcast. He said, "Does tricking degrade your game?" And I said, "You're assuming that everybody's game is equal. Everybody's
Fair.
game is not equal, because what you may say, you and I can sit down and talk to the same group of people. What you may have a different reaction, or they may have a different reaction to you than they would to me. That could be based upon your personality. That could be based on your physical appearance. That could be based on your colorful mustache. It could be based on anything. But there's a different reaction. Your game is different. And everybody's game is not the same. So when I say, when you sit down and have a conversation, what am I supposed to talk to? Talk to about what? Astrophysics? What are we talking about? Existential philosophy? Because the women that they're relating to are not the women that can understand the experience or the environment from which they come from. So now you're sitting down, you don't know the latest jargon, language, or music. You don't look at the type of television shows that she looks at. You don't look at, there's no way, practical way to relate to this woman. You have game, but it's not a game that she's receptible to. So at a certain level, you need that degree of comfort. You need that degree of confidence. You need a W. You need a W. And for some men, they have been without that degree of sexual companionship to the point where it is starting to drive them insane because they've never closed that deal. So I said that if they needed to, it's not that that becomes a substitute. I'm saying that is a way for you to at least get the basics, at least get comfortable. I'm not saying that you don't have to have conversation. I'm not saying that you don't have to have a personality. What I am saying is that you need that W. You need that W so that you can have the time to reorient yourself to what's going on and develop that conversation. So, in other words, that money should not become a substitute for your personality. It should
Right.
not become
Okay.
a
Okay.
substitute
Yeah.
for your game. It is not a substitute. It just enables them to hear you. When I say I got 75, which is something that is become quite famous or infamous nowadays. When I say I got 75, people don't listen to the part where I say, well, I know who these women are and I know where they come from because it's a known fact I love ratchets. Not ashamed of it. But I'm saying I know where they come from. I understand their experience. But somebody like me that's square, they would see me as different. So I need a way to communicate with them so that they can understand my game, so that they can understand where I'm coming from. So my 75 is not a substitute for my conversation. It's not a substitute for my personality. It just enables them to hear me. That's all I'm saying. It's a way to get in the door. It's not the journey, it's just the pass key, if that makes any sense.
I'm digesting this.
The dude that is struck out, it's not that he has it's not that he has not tasted rejection. He's been rejected consistently because he can't find a way to get them to listen. He cannot find he doesn't have a snazzy one liner. He's witty, but they don't understand his wit. He has charisma, but it's a charisma that they don't have experience with. He's looked at as different. He's looked at as the other. He's not less than or subordinate. He's just different. And he has to find a way to communicate with them. That's it.
So help me understand this. Help me understand this.
Hmm.
You're saying that the money purchases her attention, like paying for a business meeting.
Um, Essentially, yes. It purchases time. It purchases time. Yes, that's exactly what I'm saying. It purchases time. You need time. You need time to transmit your conversation. You need time. It is business. I'm glad you brought up that parallel. That's exactly what it is. Initially, initially is time. It provides a means, it gets him an audience. Now, there are other ways to get an audience, and I said that on the podcast. I talked about the Burrow game, but it is initially a way for him to get the audience because he is otherwise going to be rejected. On GP, he doesn't contain the uniform, he doesn't wear the uniform that will allow her to stop and listen.
But but when we talk about the uniform, is it a uniform or so much of a confluence of behaviors?
It's both. It's both because in our community, as you well know, our community, our dating practices are dysfunctional. So we have a jaded view of masculinity. We have a jaded view of what's attractive. If you come from a home where there's no man present, and the only men that you've seen or that you've witnessed, your mother were with were of a specific type of man, that's the type of man, that's the uniform. That's the uniform you need, or that's the uniform she needs in order to get that conversation. The socialization process of what she grew up watching, the type of behaviors that she saw her mother elicit, and the type of relationships that her mother had with a specific type of man, that shapes her view on what is sexually attractive. Now, there are some facets that are universally fundamental. Okay, all women like men with six packs. They have to be visually pleasing. I get that part. That's universal. Okay, and then when you talk about the confluence of behaviors, well, this is the same confluence of behaviors that they saw work with their mother. So that type of man is going to get an audience. We can certainly argue that it's dysfunctional. I'm not saying that it isn't. But you have to get their attention first. Why? You cannot get their attention if they don't see you as somebody worthy of them to talk to.
And so for me, when you talk about getting their attention, what did I learn, right? My body is a combination of a fire hydrant and a rhinoceros, right? So I knew, look, six packs, I could do what it took to get a six pack, but why? I just started lifting some heavy ass weights, cut out the sugar, cut out the flour. Lo and behold, especially like right now at 42, again, talking that balance, I don't have to be the monster I was at 42, but I tell people I earned these stretch marks. They don't know about those days. But at the same time, I knew I wasn't 6 feet tall and I didn't have a six pack. And my family name doesn't make people stop in their tracks. And I don't have a bankroll this that deep. And when I did get my bankroll together, I was not about to use that on women.
Mhm.
That what did I have to do? What are some of the other skills I need to learn? Well, I was put into the game early enough to say, listen, read a book a month, one nonfiction book a month. I love comic books, right? But I can't read my comic books until I'm done with one nonfiction book a month. Or if I'm not reading a book, I'm in an online class learning a new skill. Lifting weights every other day. Am I the beast I was 20 years ago? No, but I don't need to be. I just need to be in the top 15, 20% of men that I'm competing with because now I've read so many books, I've had so many life experiences that when I sit down and talk about what it's like climbing Mount Fuji in a thunderstorm, which is something I did, I don't need to have a bankroll. Or I can sit down and talk about, hey, I read this book, and let me tell you, have you ever read about this blah? Have you ever read about blah? Whether or not she's interested, they become interested when they realize you understand you have, and here's the word you used earlier, when you have dominion over a subject.
Mhm. Exactly.
So, is it? I think I think people in general are lazy and greedy. So when you introduce something that looks like a reasonable shortcut, people take it and they go too far. They're not going to. How have you seen men wean themselves off? Let's do it that way.
Here's what I've seen. Take someone, I'll give you an example, right? I'll give you an example. Take someone that looks like a Donovan Sharp. Are you familiar with that name?
Yes, yeah, I've seen him on a couple of shows.
Donovan Sharp is a brother. He's always talking about, getting in shape, working out, and he talks about red pill game and some other things. Now, to the average woman, Donovan Sharp would be, or he would have the physique that women would be attracted to. Okay, he would have that physique. But the second when he starts to talk, the second when he opens his mouth in the black community, because this is what I'm talking about now. I'm talking about a dating in a dysfunctional community. The second he starts to open his mouth, and I get the argument that you can step out and date outside of your race, but honestly, I don't see that as happening by and large in the black community. I don't think that's going to happen. But anyway, as soon as he opens his mouth and he's talking to the rank and file black woman that grew up in the working class black community, yeah, he's physical appearing, but it's something not quite right about him.
Well, hold on,
It's-
stop the show. Well, two things. One, let me tell you what I remember about him. He was the guy. He used to weigh something like 300 pounds,
yes.
and he got on the game and he started working out. He did the thing that I always tell young men: the fastest, most effective way
Mhm,
to get from where you want to go to where you want to be in relation to other people and how they treat you and everything else.
mhm.
Just start getting in shape. You don't even have to be smart. People think you're smarter than you are when you have lots of muscles. Isn't that strange?
Yeah, but here's what I'm saying. Even if he's in shape, once he starts to have a conversation with the rank and file black woman
Mm.
that comes from that community, he's still going to be outside. Even though he is physically appealing, when he starts to have that conversation with them, this goes back to your confluence of behaviors concept. When he starts to open his mouth, when he has a conversation with him, he's going to turn them off. He's going to turn them off because their idea of masculinity, their identity of manhood is very different than what you're proposing. It is not that your idea is defective or is wrong. It's just what this group of women have not been trained to understand.
Well, let me
So
back up for a
when
second.
you, when you talk to, when you deal and when you talk to them, it's one thing. Yeah, you can be physically appealing. Yeah, that attracts them, but there's something else that they have to have. Now, in the black community, we call that quote unquote swag. Okay, but if you do not possess that type of social capital, because you can have dudes that are I always say this, you have dudes in the black community that are bomb Negroes. Bomb Negroes are master entertainers. They are master in, so they will always have women. Or you have dudes that will look like the notorious B.I.G. He has confidence, he's entertaining, he's funny, but he's also super gangster. So he displays that aggression that resonates with them. But if you are the ordinary dude who who doesn't fall into that category, you need an audience. You need time to get on. And so yes, you do trade that small amount of currency for that time to get on.
Well, going to Donovan, and I want to say something. And if anyone here knows him or wants to quote this to him, I don't want to speak out of school. I don't know him personally. If I'm ever to be corrected on what I am about to say, I'm not here to make enemies. I'm just telling you what I have seen. If I'm not mistaken, he exclusively dates white women. If I'm not mistaken,
Yes,
is
you're right.
he and he and again, I'm using my words carefully because I don't know him personally. I can only see a couple videos I've seen. Does he go out of his? Is he the guy that goes out of his way to be as disparaging as possible and insult black women? Is he one of those guys?
He goes off on them. Yeah, he does go
Okay.
off on them. He does go off on them.
Okay.
And yes, but initially, I think that came from, and that may have happened back when he was 300 pounds. Maybe that happened then. But what happens is
Yeah.
that when you're talking about, and B Money said that there are plenty of women that like intelligent conversations. B Money, yes, women like intelligent conversations. That's not the point. The point is that intelligent conversation in the black community is not an aphrodisiac. It's cocktail conversation, but it's not an aphrodisiac across the board. Yes, you will find women that may be attracted to brainy men, but those are going to be few and far in between. The rule in the black community is that aggression is the standard currency
Wait, say that
of
again. Whoa, whoa, whoa,
aggression.
whoa.
I'm sorry.
Did you say aggression is the currency?
Aggression is the standard sexual currency in Black America when you're
Can you
dating
open that
Black.
up for me?
Okay, what that means is a lot of times women like men that are aggressive. They like men that are physically aggressive because they want to feel some degree of protection. You see the average dude off the block, right? The dude that they call Pookie and Ray Ray. Let's just use that term, and I hate that term, but let's just use it. um, the attraction to those guys. Now, those guys could be totally financially irresponsible. They could be totally reckless. They could be irresponsible. They could be disrespectful. But those women are attracted to the fact that those men will stand up and fight and defend themselves at the drop of a hat because in the Black community, one of the ways to protect your humanity and your dignity is through the act of violence. Unfortunately, unfortunately, fighting is how you affirm your dignity. So when they run across a man that they think will protect them, when they run across a man that they think has that self-defense mechanism, that's the man that they're going to be attracted to, along with the rest of the uniform. But aggression tends to be the standard tool, the standard currency of sexual attraction in the Black community.
Hmm. I need to chew on that because we are all trapped in our own bubbles as wondering, is my experience different? Because what you said about him, about when he was 300 pounds, if that was in fact the case, one of the things
And I
that
don't know if that was the case. I'm just guessing. I don't know if he tried to holler at him when he got in shape. I don't know. But I do know he talks about his past. So I
yeah.
assume the past was when he was 300, but I don't know for
Right.
sure.
Well, because I mean, I remember that's when somebody put me onto him because he routinely, that's one thing, he routinely says, "This is what I used to be. This is what I am now." He makes it a point to advertise that picture of him back when he was fat. And
Okay.
that's something I respect that. But with aggression being the currency, aggression, I need to think about that because one of the things I can tell you that has happened to me and the group of friends, the kind of friends that I had through high school and university, I explain to people all the time. I'm a nerd. I'm one of the biggest nerds you'll ever meet. But I was a nerd before it came into fashion, and once it became in fashion, I guess I became more socially acceptable. Most of my tank tops and t-shirts have everything from superheroes to comic book artists on them.
Right.
And I grew up getting beat up for that when I was a kid. Now my
Mhm.
younger cousins, I feel like that old man, shaking his fist. Y'all don't know what it was like when if you wore a comic book T-shirt to school, you got your ass kicked, and you would wear it
Right.
anyway. Y'all don't remember. Y'all don't know those days. But it's one of those situations where um, I do know so many black men. Because for the record, I've dated women of every color, stripe, shape, nationality, but I know a lot of black men and black people, black boys and black girls who got really isolated and it made them bitter and they abandoned every part of the black community, not just dating.
Yes.
You know,
Yes.
um,
Yes. That's
now
very
it's you know what Afro punk is, right?
yes.
That didn't happen when I was in high school. A black girl that came to here with a red ribbon in one and a blue ribbon in the other one,
Mhm.
she was shunned by girls. Because for
Yes.
boys, we use violence, right, as social punishment. Girls, it's shunning.
Yes.
She doesn't sit at the table with you anymore. And it
Mhm.
doesn't matter or not the girl was pretty or ugly or fat or skinny. The fact that she wasn't wearing her hair in the same fashion as an acceptable parameter, she got shunned. And now, of course, Afro punk is cool. Girls wear different colored lipstick all the time, half blue, half red, with a comic book character tattooed on her neck. And that's cool. But I that's why I try to have some compassion for a lot of those guys, even though I don't accept that it has to turn into a hatred against black women. And when I
Against
when I
their
hear
yeah.
Donovan,
Mhm.
I'm like, man, because it's like anything that I don't like, I just don't talk about because I don't like it. But he has spent a lot of time investing. Because I was looking up some of his stuff while we are talking.
Mhm.
He has invested very hard. I mean, he invested real hard into. He invested really hard into disparaging black people. And that's a
But I suspect that his rejection didn't just come from black women either. A lot of times it's not just black women, it's the black community. Because as you said back in the day, because I was a nerd, I grew up as a nerd. That's been me. And there are some, and to address another comment in the room, yes, you may have no problem pulling hood rats, and you're not the common experience, bruh. You're not the common experience. So let me get back to what I was saying. Anyway, the black community, what we have a lot of times is our culture and our influences, and our swag tends to be our political currency. That tends to give us a great degree of influence among each other. And what happens is that when somebody is exiled outside of that culture, that influence, the consequences of that, the trauma that comes from that, to some people it's significant, it's extensive. And so they just go full blown divesting from the black community. They can't relate to a lot of our culture, our music, our rhythm, our swag, our vibe, and they just totally exile themselves. They just become refugees from the community. And so, becoming refugees from the community, they support and endorse the most heinous, the most vicious, the most insidious forms of repression and anger and angst against their community due to that rejection. In large part, it's from women. I would agree. Um, but what I'm saying is this: it's generally a total rejection led by black women. So no, no, and that it's not the issue. I know you've never stood in rejection, bro. I was just making a point. It was just a point. That's all. It's just a point. But the thing is they have defected from the black. They have been rejected from the black community wholesale. Is what I'm saying. It's not just the women. It's the men too. It's the whole thing of, like you said, Afro punk. You
Right.
said at a certain time, you're on the subculture. You're on the margins of society. You on the vestiges. They don't recognize that. What are you talking about, Afro punk? Go back to school. I don't know where you went to school, and you're right. We do live in our own bubble, so we speak subjectively from our own experiences.
Right.
But back in school, the quickest way to get a woman was to get caught fighting and get your ass kicked out of school. If you weren't
What?
the jock, yeah, yeah, if you weren't the jock, if you weren't the cool guy who sit back in the back of the class clown, cracking jokes on Negroes, or you weren't the dude who was known for getting expelled or kicked out, you didn't have a great deal of popularity with women
Hmm.
in the black community. You had to exercise some degree of that type of social capital. Either you were cool through sports, or you had a certain charisma where you were funny, because that's what it is. It was humor, but it was usually disruptive. Is what I'm saying. The behavior was in some instances disruptive. Was in many instances disruptive, because they used to like go back to the mid '80s. I don't know if you were around during the mid '80s. The dudes when crack first hit, those were the dudes that the women were chasing. You see,
Well, I had an
the
advantage with my parents, with my
Mhm.
father and my mother, that who, even though they got divorced, my dad moved around the corner, which was interesting. But if they had any problems, I never knew about it. Um, I was never allowed to be cool. Like I didn't really get
Oh,
shit together until I graduated high school when I was 17. Uh, I went to school 2 weeks after my 18th birthday in July, and my parents told me something later that I didn't even think about or know. My parents said we actually worked hard to make sure you were never cool and were never accepted by cool people. We made
mm,
sure your clothes were plain or funny looking. We made sure you never had brand name sneakers. We made absolutely certain that when it came time for you to go away and go to college, there was no one or nothing that was going to make you think it might be okay to stay here, because we wanted to make sure you were nothing like anybody here. Because my parents had a difficult situation. They both battled alcoholism. Then as I grew up, I found out I had two of the best parents I could have ever had, because I never went hungry or anything like that. And I grew up as I'm like, oh, when I'm a kid, I'm resentful. My parents are alcoholics. Then I realized I never lived in a project. So I always lived in a house. I was never hungry, never
mm,
been abused by anyone. My parents would never allow me to be abused. It was My parents fought for me in school because, like a lot of children that were identified as different, if you were different in white, they tested you and found out that, well, maybe he's an advanced student. You were different in black, they want to throw you into a developmentally disabled class, and that's when I'll never
Special
forget. I'll never forget going to a doctor that would sit down and have conversations with me, and we would play these games together. And then they were like, "No, your kid's actually pretty fucking smart. That's why he's not behaving the way other kids are." But little things like that made a lot of difference. So for me, when you talk about that social currency, a lot of my social currency, once I got to college and a lot of the things that I had done in the practice room in high school and college, and I had an uncle who, unfortunately, he led a lifestyle on the street and sold women, and he taught me a lot of things
Mm.
that that decent men can't know. By the time I got off to high school and college, I had just started having these experiences.
Ah, okay. So now I see where we at now. Because what happens is that in the black community, that experience that you're talking about it's at hand. It's not too far away from you. So when you said the testing years, that's when a lot of young black men, their game is put to the test, and not too insignificant amount of them fail that test because that was the subculture that we were battling, the culture of swag, or what I call swag wars. We were battling that dysfunction. We were battling a lot of things that were abnormal. So the things that you were shielded from were the things that people like me was exposed to. We were exposed to girls that came from single parent homes. We were dealing with girls that lived in the projects. Now, granted, it probably is not as bad as it's a sliding scale of a sliding scale where it is increasing in its degree of how fucked up it is. So it probably wasn't as bad as it was back then as it was now. Maybe it was, but at that point we were dealing with the hood element, even though we had some semblance of community, even though we were going through, we were coming out of the civil rights movement and getting into the era of Reaganism and crack. All of these things affected our culture. They affected how we saw each other. These things were informal in our dating pattern. Culture and social influence is very important. It's important in any racial group. It's important in any, whether it be black, red, white, no matter what you have here. But in the black community, it seemed as though the men that were the most masculine, the ones that were the most attractive, were the ones that displayed antisocial behavior. And so we never really sat down and thought about the consequences of how that worked, or how you were supposed to govern a relationship like that. That was just the prevailing paradigm. So now you got these dudes out here that are outside of that sphere. They're outside of that culture. The example I gave about Donovan Sharp, he actually did a show that says I talk like a white boy. He actually had a show that says I talk like a white boy. And he was talking about that social alienation. So if we bring this conversation back to dating in the community, dating black women in the community, in a dysfunctional community, someone like him, even though he may hit the gym, even though he may uh, be attractive, he may have tattoos, but to them in their mind, he's without that swag because he talked like a white boy.
Well, yeah, I was, and this is where it gets awkward with how you talk. When you talk about the street guys,
Hmm.
I know a lot of guys that were street guys that were in my family, and it didn't work for any of them. By the time I got out of high school, I had two cousins, both doing, I think, 20 plus. So for me, there was
20
no,
years?
yeah,
Oh, no, 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 no. The lifestyle is not effective. I'm not saying that's
yeah.
effective.
But I mean,
No.
it taught me don't be like them. But what I was going to go to is when you say talk white, here's the thing. When I hear people talk about talking black or talking white, it breaks my heart a little bit because I wonder who their role models for talking was. Because I'll give, hold on, I'm going to give you a couple of examples of where my family taught me, okay, this is, this is who black men are and how black men men sound. For example, again, the voice I always wanted but never had, Paul Robeson. You know who he
Right.
is? Okay.
Yes. Oh, yes.
There, here's a great description. And anybody who doesn't know who he is, please take some time out of your afternoon, go online, read up on Paul Robeson. Paul Robeson. Who was I taught? This is how black men sound. This is how black men sound. I was taught this is how you need to sound if you're gonna. Hold on a second. Um, this is how you're going to sound if you're a black guy. This is how you should sound. Sound like this guy. These are the powerful. These are the powerful voices that I was taught to model my communication skills after.
So why? Who told you that? I'm curious.
Well, let's go generationally. My grandmother was born in
Ah,
1910, and she went to Georgia State University. All her sisters went to Spelman State University. My father, no, my mother made sure I could read 3 grade levels ahead my entire life. My first memory with my mother was she would read a word, then I would read a word, then she would read a sentence, and as I grew, it became she'd read a page, I'd read a page. So she got me in that habit. For me, reading was always um, there was never a point where reading was introduced to me when I went to school. And now saying that now, it's not impressive. We know kids are way smarter, but I'm talking in '77 when I was born. I remember eavesdropping on my mother having a conversation with one of her sisters, and they said, "Why are you blah 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 blah? Why are you so hard on him with this and that?" Because they thought it was impossible that you should try to force a child to be able to read 3 grade levels ahead. However, so much of my academic success came because at first grade I was reading as if I was in the fourth grade. At fourth grade, I was reading as if I was in the seventh grade. Then
right.
my father, when I got to my teenage years, my father was introducing me to books that I don't know if this makes him a good father or a bad one, but my father was letting me read books like The Exorcist. My father was giving me things like Plato's Republic. He was giving me stuff that was so far over my head that there was no way I could just catch all that. But I was constantly playing catch up, and then I realized by the time I came back to Earth and I was reading books at my level, air quotes, I was running circles around people.
Well, here's what I'm saying. Why I'm not saying that. Let me be clear here. I'm not saying that that culture works. As a matter of fact, I've argued for the last year that that culture doesn't work. I've argued for the last year, the last 10 years, that that culture does more harm than it does good. My point in referencing that is that that culture has some type of sexual currency. It has some degree of sexual intrigue to women in the black community. That was my argument, is that that culture, for instance, I was reading one of my favorite books was the biography of Huey P. Newton. And he was talking about as a young man, he was trying to figure out which avenue to pursue in life. Should he be a scholar or should he be a hustler like his brother, his older brother, Walter Jr.? And he talked about, he said Walter Jr. didn't seem to work that much. He was always surrounded by women, and the dudes on the block respected him. He said, where his brother Melvin, on the other hand, was respected in the world of academia. They gave him a certain degree of reverence because he was a scholar, but that his brother Melvin wasn't really respected on the block. Now, when he was talking about Melvin, he didn't say anything about women, but when he was talking about Sonny Man, Walter Jr., his other older brother, Walter Jr. was surrounded by women. So I'm not saying that those communities or that lifestyle or that subculture works. Quite the opposite. It doesn't work. But what I'm saying in the black community, as far as sexual attraction, as far as love and sex is concerned, that subculture has been in many instances institutionalized, informally and unconsciously institutionalized in the heads of many black women.
Can I ask you to hold on for one quick second?
Absolutely,
Just for 1 second. I just gotta go away for 1 second. I'll be right back.
absolutely. So we're gonna keep this rolling. Thank y'all for coming to my first live. I see Dollar Will in here. I see B Money in here. Welcome. I see Raining Woman in here. You want me to talk about? We be wanting to talk about the 40 laws of power, but he flabbergasted why people reject someone that try to talk over people. Socialization is also strategy. Okay, I'm lost on that. B money. I don't know what you're saying about 40 laws, but he flabbergasted why people reject someone. Okay, I'm lost. You're gonna have to explain that. What's up, said he said. What's up, reigning woman? If I didn't shout you out before, Naima. What's up? What's up, Sweet Jones? What's up, Goku son? What's happening? Welcome to my first live. Watt just taught me how to do this shit. I didn't actually know how to do it, so this is my first one. And so we're here having this discussion about all things, love and sex related, sex in the black community, so forth and so on. So that's what's going on here. So if y'all got any questions, if you got anything you want to ask, hit me up. And we, oh, what's up, Doug? What's up? And we can go through anything, any questions you guys want to ask, or any points of contention you have with anything I've said anywhere else on any panels, anything I've said on a hangout on Max City, anything I've said at any point. If you have an issue with it, you can ask the questions, or you can bring the issue until the guest comes back. He stepped away for a minute or so. So if you have any questions, please hit me. If you have any comments, please hit me. You know. Uh, so again, welcome. Let's see. Said he said, chilling in L.A., Lower Alabama. Said, are you from Mobile? You from Mobile? Where are you from in Lower Alabama? I'm just curious because I'm from Lower Alabama. My home is in Lower Alabama. As a matter of fact, I'm getting ready to go back there in a few days to visit. So, thank you, Miss Rainy Woman. I hope it would be a good start for my first podcast. But again, I don't know how to do this shit. I'm still learning. Mobile. I'm from Mobile too. Said I'm from Mobile too. Graduated from Blunt High School, 1989, and the city of Mardi Gras, the real city of Mardi Gras. They don't know nothing about Mardi Gras. Said he said they think that New Orleans is the only one that got Mardi Gras jumping off. So what's happening? All right. Yes, his channel is his name, Yusef Wateef, Anti-Gravity. His channel is Yusef Wateef. It's his name. Yusef, Yusef, Wateef, Wateef. Okay? So, yeah. Yeah. Okay. B Money, I think I understand where you're coming from. Okay, we will have to hit the hit house. The hit house. They don't know nothing about the hit house. They don't know nothing about the hit house. Said he said they don't know nothing about the hit house. They tore down P Ryan's, right? They tore down P Ryan's, which was the grimiest strip club in Mobile. I'm still upset about that. They tore down uh, P Ryan's. I used to love the ratchets and P Ryan's. Okay. All right. Uh, yeah, Pharaoh. It was 11 dudes on that podcast, and they sort of talked over me the whole damn podcast. So I didn't really get to say nothing. It was futile anyway. So, but yeah, it was cool coming there. Whatever. Said he said, oh yeah, you didn't like the fact that they tore down P Ryan's. I used to love P Ryan's. Said he said it was the spot. It was some grimy ass strippers in there, and I loved each and every one of them. Okay. Do you think, Tony? Do you think sounding white as a black man helps you get non-black women? I don't think that it necessarily helps you get non-black women. I think that if you get non-black women, it's because they're attracted to you. It has nothing to do with how you sound. They're interested in your personality as opposed to how you sound. It's only black people that come up with that shit about sounding and talking white. It's only niggas do that shit. Niggas do that low grade Section 8 hood ideology. You sound white. You talk white and all of that shit. So that's something niggas do. I think that women that are attracted to you, they're just attracted to you because of your personality and who you are. So thank you, B Money. Thank you. What you said? I got a girl from Mobile, but she is really from Pritchard. Yep, that's me, Pritchard. I lived in Pritchard. Matter of fact, my parents are still in Pritchard. We've been. My parents have been in Pritchard for about almost 60 years. We've been there. It was a nice working class community back in the day. It's turned into something else. We always had the hood, but it's something else now. Okay, what is this? Anti-gravity. How do we re-engineer the culture? Do we need our own guys in smoke-filled rooms crafting it like it was craft? Yes, we do. Anti-gravity. The answer to your question is yes, we do. We do need to re-engineer our culture. That's what I was talking about when I was talking about regime change on the C Boogie. When I was on C Boogie's Hangout with Obsidian, when I was talking about regime change. If you want a new order, you have to change the existing. You have to empower those things that are attractive and that are endearing to you, that women find endearing. You have to place yourself on top. And in order to do that, you need podcasts, you need culture, you need media that promotes the things that are attractive among the so-called non-select male. And I hate that damn term non-select. That shit is ridiculous. Um, I don't know when we'll do another show. Said I don't know. I don't know. She's good people. Nicole Michelle is good people. Matter of fact, she is probably one of the more honest female YouTubers, one of the more honest ones. So I don't know. We'll have to see. Fairhope. Fairhope is not too far from Mobile. I think it's probably about an hour away, if that far. So Fairhope in the house. Goku's son, how do you think the recession will work towards power tricks in the next year? It's going to make your 75 go longer because as economic times get worse, in spite of what they're saying, as things increasingly get bad, as things increasingly get worse, rather, you're going to find a situation where women are going to gravitate back towards the so-called square dudes, but they're not just going to come back to you with open arms. What it means is that all the things that are cool about you that weren't cool about you in the beginning are going to become cool about you, but you still have to have some degree of integrity. You still have to have a pair of balls. You still have to have some degree of aggression about you. So it's definitely going to put the odds in your favor, but it's not going to be a clean sweep. Even in poor economic times, you can still be a sucker. Women don't like suckers. Women do not like suckers. They do not like chumps. They do not like noodlebacks. They do not like wishbones. Okay, so yes, the economic times may get hard, but you're still gonna have to stand on your square and be a man. All right. So I think it will work tricks. Momentum in that thing. Okay. My man is back, and I think he's plugged in now. So go ahead,
Wait,
take it away, bro.
wait. Did you? I was busy, but I heard something about a hit house.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't even know what that means. Should I not ask? If
Well,
that's something that's good.
I tell you what it is. A hit house is basically a place where they sell bootleg liquor, bro. That's down south. That's the old country institution. That's part of the Southern tradition. That's nothing but a place where they serve bootleg liquor, where the old folks go to get drunk and they listen to some blues. They go there and they listen to the blues, they get drunk and they have a good time and let their hair down. You know, it's black folks equivalent to a honky tonk bar.
Okay,
That's
okay,
what it is.
huh? Okay, that was all right. Here we go. Oh, by the way, for the people watching, something that brother Maceo doesn't know, but I'm trying to show him how to make this work because he has an amazing voice and an amazing audience. Everybody here has to do two things for him. Click the thumbs up button and share it somewhere. Share it on your Facebook, share it on your Twitter, share it on your what else? Instagram, share it on your LinkedIn. You can put a link to it on your Tinder profile if you want to. But the only thing that you can really do for him, I mean, unless he starts just asking, if he wants to hand out the offering tray, that's fine. But that makes a lot of difference. That will help him as he grows this thing. Because right now, he's got 800 people subscribed. That's awesome. More,
Well,
more.
okay. Said hit me back. He said he's talking about a cigarette lounge. It's a hit house and cigarette lounge. I'm talking about the original hit house. He said. I'm talking about the hit houses in the neighborhood where they used to sell the shinny. I'm dating myself. That's probably before your time. But that's what I was talking about. But I think he's talking about a cigar lounge. Go ahead, Watt. Take it away, bro.
No, and let me see. Where did we drop off before I had to take that
Where
call?
where we dropped off were. as I was talking about in the black community, how those characteristics of that subculture have become attractive to
Mm.
black. Now, it's not sustainable in any sense of the word. Why that shit is disastrous. It's tragic. Okay, but those characteristics initially appear attractive to women. So when dudes are in the spring and summer years, or when they're full of piss and vinegar, or
Mm.
younger, and they're out here trying to find a woman to date, the women that they date are oriented towards that type of swag. They're oriented toward that type of disposition. So it's hard for that guy to get in if he doesn't possess exceptional conversation skills. Now, he can sit down and talk to you, but unfortunately, a lot of times he can't sit down and talk to the women about the things that they're interested in. And that's the critical disconnect that we have, is because they can't engage them where they are. When I deal with women, when I deal with ratchets, I meet them where they are. I understand, like for instance, if I'm dealing with a woman who have kids, I understand what that looks like. When you go to their house, it's noise everywhere. The music is turned all the way up. She got random niggas coming in the door asking for shit in and out of her refrigerator. She got family members in there. Her kids are crying. The damn cell phone is ringing. All this noise is going on. And I'm looking at how all of this is affecting her psyche. I'm
Mm-hmm.
looking at her facial expressions. I'm observing all of this. So then when I say, okay, come and slide with me, come away with me, well, I become her Calgon moment.
you,
You understand?
I barely remember what that is.
I
So you
become
must
her
be.
Calgon moment. Oh, I'm old, brother. I'm old. I'm not ancient, but I'm up there, so I'm dating myself. I become her Calgon moment.
Her escape.
Take her away, her escape. So when she come with me, she knows she gonna be fed. She knows she's gonna have her something to smoke on, and she's away from all that noise.
Now, here's what I can relate to on that is the one thing I can relate to on that is this, where for and this especially happened when I was just in a different atmosphere. I dated a couple of different women who were all in high-end university programs, pursuing their PhDs, their this, their that. And one of the things that they always talked about was the stress and how much they enjoyed being with because they could just be a girl,
Exactly,
just be a girl,
exactly. Because when they
not
with me, they don't have to worry about anything. So they come to me. I'm Big Daddy. I'm gonna fix this. I'm gonna make it right. You understand? So when
yeah.
they come with me, I turn down all the noise around them. So not only do I turn down all the noise, one of the things I tell them, you got to cut that goddamn cell phone off. That cell phone gets cut off. And what happens is when I put them in this quiet environment and I give them their weed and I just allow them to be women. And but we know that this is an exchange. We know that you're gonna get this 75. You're gonna get this 75.
And see, that's the
But
difference. I think for me it was just never about I'm gonna I'm trying to think of a situation, but I understand that nothing is free. So at the same time, it's like, yeah, what is what is the actual exchange?
the actual exchange is this. I'm just gonna be blunt. I'm enjoying some sexual companionship, her time, in exchange for this paper. But what happens is that because she is now listening to me, I have cut down that noise. She doesn't have to worry about kids. She doesn't have to worry about some random nigga running in and out of the house. Now she can hear me. Now I can converse. Now I can sit down and relate to her. Now I can sit down and tell her I understand. Now I can show my personality. Now she can show her personality. So we got the exchange. But then when they go back to the contrast, when I put in the ten trick commandments that's up on the Negro Manosphere right now, go read it. When I said that thou shalt be equitable, thou shalt be equitable, thou shalt be respectful. You know, these things are to heighten the contrast between you and the life that they're living. So if you come from an environment that's completely serene, You come from an environment where you're taken care of. You come from an environment where you do what you want to do and nobody knows anything. Nobody knows the wiser. You keep your mouth shut. And now you put her back in that hellhole she came from. Now she's going to want to come back because the dude who she's messing with, the dude who she's been socially engineered to be attracted to, he's not that interesting anymore. Yeah, there are some things about him that she likes. She likes the aggression. She likes all the other shit, but that shit doesn't go as far anymore. Now she's amenable to your personality. Now she's amenable to your conversation. Now all of a sudden, while you're different or nerdy, the the difference or the uniqueness or the eccentricities of your personality is what puts you on.
For the
Now,
record, I'm just showing everybody what you
yes, the 10 trick commandments.
if that's something you did with, what does it look like? A date with the Hydra? Is that something where you
That was a interview that Mac had with one of the girls on the site, and they were talking about tricking, and she was saying that regardless of who she messed with, she was never gonna leave Big Mike alone. She was always
okay?
gonna mess with him. Why? Because he was always there for her. In other words, he was providing he was performing in the role of a man. But she don't
Right.
understand what a real man is because all she been dealing with is dope dealings. And so now what is happening is she getting older and niggas don't find her, excuse me, you don't like that word. Negroes don't find her as cute anymore as she once was. So now nobody's looking at her. Nobody's paying attention to her. But as those dudes came and went out of her life, Mike was the only consistent one there. So she's saying in that interview how much she values him. And she's also talking about when she's tricking, what type of trick she's gonna go with. And she makes it clear. She says if she deals with a guy, she don't mind tricking. She said if she gets an even exchange and she has a positive sexual experience. So in other words, not only is she getting the dick, so the trick isn't sexually deficient, he's sexually proficient, and she's getting something out of it, and she's cared for and respected. And she, because of those three assets, she'll never leave that guy alone, no matter what man comes in her life. That's what that interview is about.
Hmm. Yeah, I can tell you that one of the things that women who have been in my life in different scenarios have found, and they never talk about it in the beginning, but there's always a point where they say the one thing that they found the most uncomfortable was that women that I had dealt with in the past were still my friends, still treated me well. They I have ex girlfriends and ex lovers that like my current one more than they like me. It's just socially awkward. But it's interesting because they talk about how so few men like this. So wait a minute, how come all these girls still want to hang out with you and they're okay with hanging out with me and I'm your new woman? Well, because I don't mess with crazy women and I show them the value in who I am, and it's awkward.
But that's the whole thing, though. Why? To back you back up to where we came in, you got the opportunity to show them who you were. You got the audience. Some dudes need the audience.
So how can we? Okay, so how are we gonna home grow? This young man, he's 19. He's like, I want to grow this audience. Or am I too late? Is 19 too late?
Is 19 too late for what?
Teach him how to grow the audience because I don't believe any age is too late. But you're telling me that my advantage is that I had a lot of time to be on the playground when I was younger, to do certain things. My question is, well, when do you start, and do you still think that, as you call it, tricking is still a key aspect?
Here's what I'm saying. Everybody's game is different. I never said that tricking was the end all be all. But what I did say is that there was nothing for free. There are some dudes whose game is different. That's what I said when initially I came in. I said it assumes that everybody's game is equal. Everybody's game is not equal. So when I talk about tricking, it's a strategy for those men who are in some ways deficient. They're overcompensating. So that 19-year-old that you're talking about, he may not need to do that. He may possess those characteristics. He may be a young Watt. He may be a young B Money, or he may be a young Dollar Will. He may not need to do that. I'm dealing with the dude who does need to do that. I'm dealing with the dude who has so many damn L's in his column, you would swear that he's a rapper. You understand? That's the type of dude I'm talking to. Everybody's game is not the same because everybody will have different advantages. Everybody will have different aspects that puts them on. Everybody will have different strengths. Everybody will have different weaknesses. Everybody will have different positives and different negatives. This is not a panacea across the board for everyone. It's specifically designated to a particular kind of dude.
It sounds like you're talking about training wheels.
It is. It is training wheels. That's exactly what it is. It is training wheels. What? That's exactly what it is. Until you get your balance on the bicycle, then you can remove those training wheels. That's exactly what it is. It's training wheels. But you need something. You need something until you find your balance.
Hmm.
I'd be willing to bet you. Now they say he was married. You remember Chris Morgan, the dude that got choked out on the damn floor of the bagel shop? The little
Was
short
he?
guy?
Oh yeah. Oh, I felt bad for him. He
Yeah.
was like yeah, because I'm not tall, but I'm not short. I mean, I'm
Right.
five. What? I'm 5'6", about 230 pounds. But
Right.
he was. Oof, that was
If you
yeah. He was, and he was going off on somebody, and he was.
He was going off on what the rejection. He had
So
been
he was
told.
trying to talk to some girl.
Yeah, what it was is that he was supposed to have met up with this girl, and he had been online trying to talk to these many women, and he had been rejected, and then
Okay.
he had been rejected in real life. Now he was formerly married.
Okay.
He subsequently wound up homeless and in a van. So he has several. To be fair, he had several struggles going on.
Okay.
You see. So what wound up happening was he just couldn't take it no more, and he exploded because the women he wasn't getting any W's. This man was living and suffering in quiet isolation. He was dying from a degree of loneliness born of a rejection that was based upon the fact that he, in some sense, was unappealing. You're a comic book fan, right?
Yeah.
Have you heard of the Morlocks,
Yeah. Of course.
the X-Men? The Morlocks are a group of mutants that are so deformed
Yeah.
that they can't even pass for human beings. They got to live in the sewers.
Yeah. Because if I'm not mistaken, one of the things they pointed out was that the X-Men were all the pretty ones.
Yes, yes. So the Morlocks have to live in the sewer. They have to hide like rats in the sewers because they are so dysfunctional. And you got to remember when the war started, the Morlocks were the first ones that got wiped out. They were the first ones that got wiped out. And I equate a lot of these dudes. They are the Morlocks of the dating world.
I
And
like
these
I like that. I like that analogy.
these are the people that reside inside of that incelic rage. The Chris Morgans of the world. They reside inside. They are the Morlocks. They reside inside of this incelic rage. These are the dudes that you hear talking about. Uh, they want to fuck robots. They're talking about AI, digital vaginas. I mean, people that have become so devoid of of human contact, of the whole act of spitting game. You're talking about conversation and game. They ain't even talking about conversation or game no more. Why? They talking about robots. Robots.
I will say this: there's some red flags that went off um, when I saw that video and just thinking about him and talking about him. Um, One is he is what happens when you can't overcome or get through or have someone to coach you. But I also believe that And I know what I'm going to say is terrible. I know what I'm about to say is terrible, and I feel terrible putting this out there in the universe. It wouldn't surprise me if he wasn't involved in some kind of a murder suicide where he hurt women because, you know, he's
That's not
been
terrible. That's real.
that reality to understanding that it's so close but yet so far. When you read up on a lot of those guys that can't understand, and a common theme is how come the women don't want me? They always go for these assholes and jerks, and they're like, blah blah blah. Well, one of my comebacks to that is people always confuse me with being a villain because I'm so effective in life. Because people don't equate winning with also being a reasonable guy. Maybe not a nice guy, but I'm a reasonable guy, and I'm not outwardly evil to people. But at the same time, when I see guys like him, and he can't understand why men, he had a bad roll of the dice. He can't understand why other men who may be the same height as him do get women. The second thing is, I don't think he understood how many people did try to treat him more equitably than they had to because he's still a man. But I don't think he understands that had he been a few inches taller and used those same words in public, he would have got punched in the face much. I mean, there are things
So
that
you're saying they made allowances for the fact that he was short. Some people took pity on it.
exactly. Like as a man, I understand. Look, I've talked a lot of shit my whole life. I got my ass kicked for it when I was younger, so I had to learn how to either stop talking so much shit or be able to back it up. And I kind of balanced it out because talking shit, that's why I do things under my real name. I don't talk trash about anybody, but I'm not afraid to go after somebody if they come after me. At the same time, I've taken beatings that taught me how I have to behave. I wonder if he didn't get, and I don't advocate hurting children. I want to be clear. I don't advocate spanking children, but out in the real world, if you're going to develop as a man, I'm fortunate. I took most of my beatings in the gym, with Brazilian Jiu Jitsu and kickboxing. Most guys learn how to behave through pain. We learn that hard headed lesson. I wonder how many times he didn't get roughed up because he was being a little too loud or a little too aggressive or spoke to somebody's wife or girlfriend in a way that for you or we would understand, oh, one of us is probably going to go down hard after this. One of us is probably going to get into a bad situation.
Well, and that brings me back to a podcast and what I've been saying for a long time is that we did a podcast on Sean James, and it was the one where we did the Flat Top Diaries. And one of the things we talked about was the rite of passage ritual of standing up to the bully. And it was based on the fact that Sean James was confronted when he was 11 years old by a bully. And the guy was asking him about women. Do you get any pussy? And he didn't understand what that meant. He didn't understand that what the guy was doing was the guy was sizing them up. Because in the black community, among black males, they size each other up in terms of uh, what they call cool points now. They size you up in terms of your reaction towards women or women's
Right?
reaction towards you, or
Yes.
they size you up according to your knuckle game. You see what I'm saying? And
Yes.
in that conversation, they're determining whether you're going to be friend or foe, whether you're going to be predator or prey.
Okay.
And that conversation that he was happening with that guy was sizing him up, but he asked him about women. And at that critical point, that every that most young black, I'm hesitant to say everybody anything, but at that critical point when you're being sized up, when you don't stand up to defend yourself, even when you get your ass kicked, that shapes and that permeates your relationship towards women. Because standing up to a bully or standing up to people in pivotal instances such as that, that is a part of growth. That's the pain you were talking about. Pain, you learn lessons through pain. You understand? But in
Mm.
that instance, he avoided that pain. So our argument is that because he avoided that pain, he didn't go through that experience. He didn't understand the consequences and all the ramifications and nuances surrounding that experience. He didn't
Can I?
understand how women shape their degree of sexual attraction to you based upon your aggression. Go ahead.
Speaking of, there was a confluence of things in my brain. We're gonna take a left turn and come back, but I gotta share this. We were
Okay.
talking about the Morlocks who live underground. We were talking about people having to learn lessons. We were talking about taking that ass kicking. I
Mhm.
watched a 1 minute video that has been going off on social media of a guy who's standing outside the subway doors. As the subway doors close, there's a black man. Now they must have had some kind of disagreement. He spit in the guy's face right before the door closed. Okay,
You
and in
spit
the
in the black
comics,
man's face.
yeah, yeah,
Okay.
and just as the door closed, the dude grabbed the door like this, and you saw his fist shake because these are New York subway doors. And
Right.
he starts parting them, and as quick as he got it, just a little bit through, he stuck the arm through. And this was like something that happened right out of a comic book. Once he got his arm through, and the other dude still telling himself, "This can't be happening. This guy can't possibly." And through sheer a combination of force of will, physical strength, and the ability to deal with whatever consequence for breaking this New York subway door came, he got his other hand in there and he pushed it. And when he got out of that subway, people were probably scared he was going to kill the kid. The guy, he wasn't a kid. He looked like a child because the way he took that ass whooping, it wasn't a fight. He grabbed him, threw him to the ground, and he drilled him with 4 or 5 solid shots. Now I used to be a bouncer, and one of the reasons I respect violence and I stay away from violence whenever possible. People don't understand getting punched in the head on concrete. I've seen guys the light go out in their eyes. As a bouncer,
Yep.
I saw some stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I remember when he cracked this dude, the guy was out cold. They were like, "Get him off him, get him off him." And somebody else in the background, no, he's spitting that man's face. And people that were going to intervene stepped back. They were
Right.
watching this man nearly get killed on a concrete slab in a New York subway because when it was revealed he spit in this man's face as an affront to his manhood and humanity, he must deserve it.
Yes. Yes. But you have to. The thing is you learn the lesson that there are consequences to your actions,
Right.
and the only way he learned that lesson was at the
Yep.
end of that man's fist on the ground,
Yep.
being pounded into the damn concrete.
I'm going to try and find it for you because it was one of those things that I got to tell you, it did something to me on the inside watching that because part of me, a small part of me, pitied the guy because I realized he had no idea that that's something men have lost their lives over. That what he did was such a horrible thing. Hold on 1 second. Let me see if I can find this for anybody who wants to, because the video is less than a minute long. There we go. Hold on. Now I'm gonna share my screen with you, and just take a few seconds and let this just let this sink in. Okay, you see this? Do you see that?
Yeah, I see it.
Watch. There's the spit. You saw it, right?
Yep.
Now watch this. Watch this.
Oh,
Now he's still telling himself this can't happen. Now watch what happens. One, two. Now this is where the power shots come in. One, two, three, four, five, six, seven, eight. He's gone. Nine. And I'm amazed at the restraint that dude had.
yeah,
Nine.
because he just picked up his bags and dipped.
And you see, people were about to detain him, and everybody said, "No, no, no." He spit in that man's face. Now
Yeah.
watch when the camera zooms up on this kid. And I keep saying kid, he's a grown man, but his body is just laying there. That's that's brutal. That's the
Wow.
brutality of lessons. And um, I wonder, I wonder if that short guy ever took a beating.
He probably didn't. A lot of times, you know how it is. Some of us are very, very sensitive to people when they have certain struggles. So what we do is a lot of times we seek to spare them of the consequences that come from, or spare them from the ridicule, I should say, spare them from the ridicule that results from whatever their condition is, whatever their struggle is. So we shield them from the natural consequences that they would get otherwise. And so what we do is we end up infantilizing them.
Yes.
And you see that now. You see what happens because now you got people thinking that you can basically go out here and just humiliate people. You just go out here and just humiliate people, and there are no consequences to them. You just go out here and just talk to, specifically, that you can go out here and talk to people in the street any kind of way and just think, oh, well, I got the First Amendment right to say it, so I can say what I want. Okay, that's true. You do have the right to say what you want to say, but you better be ready for the consequences.
Right.
You better be ready when they sneak your ass, because as you well know, what the saying is, the punch that knocks you out is the one
Is
you
the
don't
one
see
you don't see coming.
coming. Is the one you don't see coming. So while you out here talking slick, and coming out your mouth to these people in the streets, there is a response to that. There's a set of consequences that's coming to that. You know.
And that's the thing. I'm fortunate, and as an adult, I can see this, that I never did anything to somebody or said anything that made them feel like I'm gonna sneak up on this dude with a gun or a bat. It was always these legitimate blah 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 blah, and then sometimes I just
Pow.
got my ass kicked.
Yeah.
But I never did anything to somebody that, I was raised with that concept that there are certain things that are off limit. I'm not gonna go after your family. I'm not gonna say something disrespectful to your girl. If I have a problem with you, I have to say it to you. That's why I'm so. People ask me all the time, why are you so free online? Listen, I'm never gonna accidentally offend somebody, and I'm never gonna say anything I can't feel with my face in front of it. That rule has kept my ass out of so much trouble because I'm not. They don't understand. They don't
Yeah.
understand.
Yeah. No, but you're right. But in his instance, he probably was shielded from his consequences. I would say a lot of people probably took pity on him.
Yeah.
They took pity on him, and they sympathized with him because he was in this, and it made him worse. It probably made his personality woman repulsive.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, so that's possible that his personality could have just been acerbic. It just could have been abrasive. But the thing is that I recognize that it came from that rejection. That man is not going to be able to get on a bike with no training wheels. Why? He's not going to be able to get on. He can't ride the bike. He just can't. So when you hear me say tricking one, I always felt that it was a fair exchange. Always felt that it was a fair exchange, and it cut through the bullshit. You were able to say exactly what you wanted and be able to make sure that the other person was on the same page.
Wow.
And two, it cut out a lot of unnecessary bullshit on the woman's behalf, taking you through a bunch of changes. In the 10 Trick Commandments, I lay out in the 10 Trick Commandments the scenario that I'm talking about. Women that will come, they know you're sexually attracted to them, they know um, that you want to fuck. So what they're doing, they coming to you and borrowing money from you, never paying it back. They calling you and want you to move her furniture. She's calling you and using you as the emotional tampon. She's calling you to get you to sign for shit that nobody else would sign for. And a whole host of favors that she knows in her right mind that she doesn't deserve. And I'd be willing to bet you that's where guys like Chris Morgan live.
You know what? Yeah, it's an ugly world.
It is. And I just said this is a way, one, this is a way for you to at least get some of what you want. Two, if you feel that bad about it, she shouldn't be getting away with this shit anyway. You should just tell her to dip, tell her to kick rocks, beat the block. But if you're going to continue to stay around this woman, get something out of it. Get
Mm.
something. Make sure it's even, Steven. Make sure the exchange is fair. Because, see, when women say, well, can I borrow some money? They mean let them have it.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? So they're preying upon this guy's vulnerability. They're preying on his insecurities. And what I'm saying to that man is, look, don't let her prey on your insecurity. Don't let her prey on uh, your condition. Don't let her prey on the fact that she thinks that you're attention star. Make it even. Make her pay, because nothing is free. Nothing is free. So when I
And
talk about tricking, I think that those guys at a certain level, they need a W. Not that those women are going to be legitimately attracted to them. That's not what I'm saying. I'm not saying that at all. I'm not saying that that's even going to uh, give them a personality. What I am saying is it gives them time to get themselves together to where they can develop their game, to where they can develop their personality, to where they can learn how in the process of how to relate to women. Because I don't know about you, but I didn't learn about women from the virtuous woman. I learned about women from the perspective of the hoes and ratchets.
you know what, man? I could sit here all day. I got some stuff I got to do because I can. My brain is going down a couple different avenues. We got to do this again, and I want you to also be able to come back to a few of my other shows. This is what I want you to do. Tell everybody. Make sure you tell everybody where to find you, and then I'm going to show you some things after you click stop broadcasting.
Well, where you can find me is Power of Strategies on Patreon. That is my Patreon channel. Uh, if you want to get at me, my email address is wayofstrategy44 at gmail.com. That's wayofstrategy44 at gmail.com. Power of Strategies on Patreon. Or you can hit me up. I have articles on the Negro Manosphere every Tuesday. The one I got up right now is the 10 Trick Commandments. Go over there, read the articles. I included a Mac City video in there, so hopefully you niggas will read the argument. I'm sorry, you Negroes will read the argument. Hopefully you'll read the argument. You know, I'm not hopeful, but nevertheless, read the argument, comment and share, and that's where you can find me. And now that I know how to work this channel, I think Watt gonna work with me, and I'm gonna figure
Yeah.
out how to do this shit, and hopefully I'll come up with more material. Why
All
tell them
right.
where to find you at?
Oh yeah, jump into my chats here on my YouTube. Hold on, I'm put it in the there. They can see my main page, yusefwateef.com. But if everybody looks, make it a point to go by and click subscribe on my channel. We have different content, but we have a lot of valuable content. You know, and I talk to people from all over the world, everything from money to travel to just lifestyle. And I hope you have fun. I'm looking forward to everybody coming by and saying hello.
All right.
So if you see that stop stream, if you just click that
Yes.
button one time and hold on, let's see if it should go off the air and then it'll be just you and me. Let me know when you pressed it.